Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to another League of Legends guide video. And in today's guide, we're going to be looking over Pantheon. Now, Pantheon is a super strong bruiser who just got reworked, and he's ready to show everyone what he's got. So, honestly, Pantheon has seen a new light, and now he's really strong. I mean, it was pretty much like the old kit, but it's a lot more better, and it has a little bit more skill compared to the old Pantheon, along with having more interesting abilities and aspects of playstyle. However, Pantheon hasn't massively changed, like I said, and I'm going to be showing you how to play him, what makes him such a good lane bully, and to give you all the reasons why you'd want to pick him up. So firstly, we're going to be starting off with Pantheon's abilities, then we'll move over to his runes, builds, combos, and anything you need to know. So we'll start with Pantheon's passive, which is Mortal Will. When Pantheon attacks or casts an ability up to 5 times, he will gain a stack which will empower any of his abilities besides his ultimate, causing them to either extend durations or to deal extra damage. Bearing in mind, Pantheon will always start with 5 stacks at the beginning of the game. So every time he has these 5 stacks, he will empower his next ability, and it will do something unique for each ability. Then we'll move over to Pantheon's Q, which is Comet Spear. This is pretty much like his old Q ability where it was point and click, but however now it's a skill shot. If you hold it down, it's not a point and click ability anymore. So on the first cast, Pantheon will wind up his spear for up to 4 seconds, much like Pike, which increases the range of the spear but also slows you by 10%. So this is very much like Pike. He will charge up his spear, and as he's holding the spear on the channeling, he will get slower, but it will do more damage. Then after that, Pantheon throws his spear and deals physical damage to all enemies hit, which increases on enemies that have below 25% of their maximum health. Targets hit after the first target will get damage for only 50%, whereas the first target will take full damage. However, if you instant cast the Q or release it within a third of a second, it causes Pantheon to thrust his spear ahead, dealing physical damage to all targets and refunds 50% cooldown on the ability. So again, this is sort of like Pike and his Q, where Pike also has a spear throw and a jab, same with Pantheon. Interrupting the charge puts the ability on full cooldown and refunds half the mana, along with Comet Spear's damage being reduced by 10% against minions. And now if you had full passive stacks, which is the Mortal Will Empower, Pantheon deals up to 240 damage based on level and 100% bonus AD and slows the target for 2.5 seconds. So it will just do a lot more damage, has better scaling, and slows the target for more. Then we'll move to Pantheon's W, which is Shield Assault. This is a point and click ability, much like the old Pantheon's, and he dashes a small distance onto his target enemy, dealing physical damage while stunning them for a second, same as the old Pantheon's W, like I said. However, when you have the Mortal Will Empower, his W allows him to strike 3 times after basic attacking after the W, while stunning them for 1 second. On the Empower, it deals up to 150% AD, with each strike counting for 50%. Each hit also applies on-hit effects. So this is much like Renekton's stun. When he has the enraged version, he gets to throw in 3 auto attacks, which also apply on-hit effects, which is why it's good to take something like Press the Attack or Tiamat. However, the W can also be dodged if the target is 800 units away. So if you flash while he's mid-cast of this, you can still avoid it. It's not like other champions that still put the stun through even if you flash away. And then we'll look at Pantheon's E, which is Aegis Assault. Pantheon puts up a shield for 1.5 seconds while striking in a target direction in a cone. Pantheon is slowed while moving in the shield's cast direction, and the ability cannot be interrupted by CC. So within this ability, Pantheon is invulnerable against damage by enemies that are in the direction of the shield at first hand, meaning he will absolutely take no damage. Pantheon also blocks tower shots with this ability, so he has some serious dive potential. At the end of the duration or reactivating, Pantheon slams his shield, which deals physical damage. But on the Mortal Will Empower, the duration of the shield is increased to 2.5 seconds and deals up to 166% physical damage over the entire duration. This means he can block up to like 2 or 3 tower hits while he has the empowered version, and he can block a lot of damage. And then we'll move over to Pantheon's ultimate, which is Grand Starfall. Pantheon does a big squat for 2 seconds while leaping into the air. He marks the destination with his spear and comes crashing down along the target area. He will remain vanished until the landing is fully complete. And when he's on the landing, he deals magic damage and is decreased by 50% on the edges of the AoE. Also, when he uses R, it instantly readies his passive at maximum stacks. And if the channel is interrupted or cancelled, the ult cooldown is reduced to 30 seconds instead, because Pantheon himself can interrupt it by just right-clicking elsewhere, by cancelling the channel, or someone else can interrupt it. So now that we've looked over the details of Pantheon's abilities, we'll just do a quick summary on what every ability will be useful for. Now, his passive will combine with every single ability except his ultimate, empowering one of the abilities and making it super strong, which is why your Q ability is going to be useful for poking and taking down backline minions for when it comes to wave clearing. Because you don't always have to use the Q spear, but it's an option to take whenever you want to poke down the enemy. But he also deals really well in close combat because of his Q thrust. It does so much damage, especially when it's empowered by the Mortal Will Empower, and it scales massively with AD when it's empowered. His W ability is good to close the gap onto the enemies and also unleash a barrage of attacks, which also combines well with the E ability because you can jump onto the enemy once the stun is over. You can use your E ability to unleash a bunch of attacks while also blocking them completely. And you can think of some crazy combos with this. But the one thing that's going to be highly useful is when you're using your empowered E ability, especially in team fights, because he will consume a lot of the damage and also not take it at all. He will completely nullify it, and his ultimate also does help for roaming potential because he'll be able to jump halfway across the map. map. So if he's on top lane, he can easily jump to mid lane for when it comes to ganking, or he can help out his jungler anytime. Let's say, for example, if they're in the top side jungle. But other than that, there's many other things that you can do with his abilities, and I will show you later on in the combos. So when it comes to the maxing order for Pantheon, you want to max your Q first, then E, then W, then R. But when it comes to the unlocking order, you want to unlock QWE from level 1 to 3. Most of your damage does come from your Q ability, which is why you're going to be maxing that first. Your E ability is nice to max second because it's most oftenly up and it will deal a little bit more damage. And having this up frequently is really good because you get to block a lot more damage. And then you can max your W at the final and also make sure you put points in your R whenever it's up. And then when it comes to summoner spells, you want to go Flash Ignite for if you're playing the aggressive top lane, especially when you're fighting almost any matchup. Pantheon is a really big lane bully, and if you can get kills early game, you're going to be scaring off the enemy, and it's nice to use when you're punishing the enemy for picking up minions. Flash and TP is really good for matchups that are even or countering you because it allows you to come back to lane a lot more quicker after clearing waves and making sure you don't miss out any XP or any minions. It also allows for roaming potential even with your ultimate because you can use your TP to either roam off or you can use your ultimate to roam somewhere else and then use your TP to come back so your enemy doesn't get to get turret plating. And then you can go Flash and Smite if you're going to go jungle with Pantheon because it works pretty well. His farming and his clear in the jungle is actually pretty decent. So now we'll be moving over to Pantheon's runes. So I got two different rune pages for Pantheon, and firstly we'll be starting off with his precision page, which goes Conqueror, Triumph, Legend at Tenacity, Coup de Grace, and then going Domination on Taste of Blood and Ravenous Hunter. And you want to go Adaptive Force twice and going a defensive rune of your choice. Conqueror makes Pantheon super strong, and his empowered W cause 4 strikes in total because you got the 3 strikes from the actual ability SL following up with an auto attack, allowing you to proc Conqueror very easily, and it helps keep you in fights and sustain well while doing true damage to the enemy. The same can also apply for when you go press the attack. You can also go that if you want to proc it instantly because your empowered W will instantly proc press the attack because it will do 3 swipes which apply on it effects, meaning press the attack will instantly come off and they will be very vulnerable to your attack. And then you want to go Triumph for when you're taking down enemies or especially in 2v1 situations because you get some health back and you get to fight even longer. Good for team fights as well. Legend Tenacity is really good because on top lane most often you'll be fighting people that have CC, most likely tanks. Coup de Grace is good for top lane fighters or bruisers that you're fighting against, or even top laners that are squishy, because that does happen in most of the cases, and it's really good to help you shut them down when they're on low health. Taste of Blood and Ravenous Hunters provides the nice little sustainability within Pantheon, because he doesn't have any ability that's going to heal him, so Taste of Blood and Ravenous Hunter makes up for that. And then if you want to go for more of an assassin option, you can go Domination, taking Electrocute, Sudden Impact, Eyeball Collection, Ravenous Hunter, and then taking Legend Tenacity and Coup de Grace second. So Electrocute is a good early to mid game keystone because it bursts down enemies and you'll have way more damage output than them in those stages of the game. Because once Pantheon hits level 3, or even if he just has 2 abilities, he will do so much damage and will almost always proc Electrocute, which combines really well with Sudden Impact's burst of lethality and magic penetration, which is when he uses the leap on his W ability. Eyeball Collection is pretty much self-explanatory on why you get it, and you get free adaptive damage. Go in Ravenous Hunter to keep up that sustainability. Legend Tenacity is really good for the previous reasons along with Coup de Grace. And make sure you take 2 adaptive force runes because you want to do that early damage, especially with Electrocute in your hand. So now that we summarized his runes, we're going to be going into his builds, which is the more interesting part of Pantheon. So when it comes to starter items, if you want to go for more of an aggressive option early game, you can go Longsword and Refillable Pot. Otherwise, you can go Corruption Pot if you want to sustain your mana along with your health, because Pantheon does get a little bit mana hungry in early stages of the game until he hits level 6. Then he's able to maintain it a little bit more. Corruption Pot will help you give some mana back if you think you won't be killing your enemy really fast into the game. And if not, you can go from your Longsword Refillable Pot into a Longsword Corruption Pot if you have enough gold that's excessive to the items you buy. And then when it comes to your first back options, you want to straight up get your lethality option. You want to go for your Serrated Dirk or Caulfield's Warhammer, depending on if you want more burst of lethality or if you want CDR to go along with it. And if you have any extra gold, you want to either go for another Longsword or boots. And then for the core items, you want to either go Yumu's Ghostblade, Duskblade, Black Cleaver, Sterex Gauge, or Guardian Angel. These are all of his core items that are very essential to Pantheon. And you can already see there's many lethality options, but what is the main lethality option that you should be taking on Pantheon when it comes to top lane or mid lane? I'd say you want to take Yumu's Ghostblade to help you close the gap and also damage the enemy a bunch. Duskblade is okay, but I don't think it's going to be more of a Pantheon thing to ambush, but it's still a possibility and people still do it because the old build on Pantheon that you used to do is still compatible with this new Pantheon. It's almost pretty much the same Pantheon. However, he's got a little bit more flexibility for when it comes to builds, because you can either build him like an assassin or like a fighter. And then you want to go Black Cleaver because you can stack up the cleaver stacks easily with his Empower W ability. Sterex Gauge is super good for when you're diving into enemy teams because you're going to likely take a lot of the damage and you can block most of that damage with Sterex Gauge and your E ability. And then if you want to be unkillable straight after that, you want to go Guardian Angel so you're securing yourself and making sure that you're alive and so that you stay in team fights or staying alive in 1v1. And then when it comes to the boots options, you want to either go Ninja Tabby or Mercury Treads or mobility boots. But most likely in this case, I would either go Ninja Tabby or Mercury Treads depending on if they have heavy AD or heavy AP, or if they have a lot of CC. But if you were going against like a Fiora or a Yasuo or a Irelia, you want to go Ninja Tabby. Otherwise, if you were going against a Maokai or a Scion or something that has a lot of CC, I would go for Mercury Treads. Other than that, if I was so far ahead, I would take mobility boots so I have more roaming potential. Usually this can also be taken when you're taking Pantheon in the jungle as well. And then we'll go through a whole list of his situational items. Deadman's Plate is super good because it has armor and it also gives him that movement speed passive that comes from Deadman's Plate. Randuin's Omen is nice because it reduces crit damage that comes from enemies, which is super good again for when it comes to fighting ADCs, especially if they can kite you really well like Kai'Sa. Thornmail is super good for when it comes to afflicting grievous wounds to people that really do need to not heal, like Fiora or Yasuo. This will completely nullify their healing. Well, it wouldn't completely, but it will reduce it massively and give you the upper hand in when it comes to fights. ZZ Rot Portal can be an option if you have no other choice or if you need the potential to split push. Spear of Shodan is actually pretty damn strong. If you can get a nice ultimate off and you can jump onto the enemy, you can spam your abilities and let off so much damage because of the Dragon Rush passive. And then you could go Hex Drinker into a Mauve Malmortius if you have a top lane matchup that has a lot of AP, or even if you're going mid lane, because Hex Drinker is going to save your life, especially with that big shield that comes out of it. If you're going for more of a fighter build, you can go for a Death Stance because you can heal a crap ton while still maintaining the fact that you're a lane bully, because you can always keep sustaining while keeping down the enemy champion and get off some good trades. And then you can go Lord Dominix if you really need it, because if they're stacking armor or if they have like 2 mega tanks that really are becoming a problem, this will combine really good with Black Cleaver. Otherwise, you can go Mortal Reminder for champions such as Vladimir because he heals so much. You want to go this item for when it comes to champions that just ridiculously heal. Otherwise, you can go Edge of Night, which is super good against champions that you need a spell shield against, especially like Karthus. Like, you know, all these Karthus jungle players. Yeah, this is the only option. Even when I play AP champions, I just build the Edge of Night because Edge of Night is almost always up and it has such a small cooldown for a spell shield compared to Banshee's Veil. But otherwise, it's a super good item if you want more lethality, but also want a spell shield so you can jump into the team fights. And then here's an example build of Pantheon. Looks pretty much like an assassin bruiser build, and you could do a lot of damage out of vision thanks to the Duskblade, also being able to gap close onto his enemies using the Yumu's Ghostblade, shredding armor with the Black Cleaver, and maintaining armor with Ninja Tabby Deadman's. This is more situated towards AD matchups, and then going Guardian Angel, which also has armor and the passive to keep you alive. So that was pretty much Pantheon's builds in a nutshell, and there are many other things that you can do with his builds, and if you want to ask more about that, go ahead and put it in the comment section below. So when it comes to laning phase for Pantheon, Pantheon's kit is rewarding for when it comes to bullying enemy laners and denying them from their CS and objectives. Whenever enemies walk up to go grab their minions and you know you can dominate them, you should punish them for that. You should jump on them, you should use your Q ability, use your W, make sure that they don't get the minions. You want to bully them for that. Your Q spear does reach quite far into the lane, especially new Pantheon Qs. You don't even have to use the Q spear, but that is best to use for when you're poking the enemy off the minions so you can push them far back and not collect any XP or CS. Pantheon's ultimate can be used to come back to lane quicker, and it can replace TP, giving you the option to take Ignite and to keep up good damage and pressure. So if you want to preserve your TP, you can use your ultimate to get back to lane quicker. Otherwise, you can take Ignite as well in replacement of the TP, because your ultimate will be up more often and you can just come back to lane using that. Other than that though, it's good to have TP and ultimate at the same time, because you can use your ultimate to roam onto another lane, get a kill, maybe get some assists, and then you can get TPing back to your lane. If enemies keep continuing to farm while you're punishing them, just keep it up. Just be really stubborn about it. It's easy to kill for you, because what you want to do is you want to put them in a state where they feel useless and you're going to consistently bully them and make sure that you deny them from everything that they can ever get, meaning they will either beg to call their jungler or they will likely give up. And why is this a good strategy? Because it opens up more opportunities around the map for your jungler as well. And one thing with Pantheon is it's always good to pressure your enemy champion. Make sure you keep your back warded and make sure your R ability is there so you can use it as an escape. Usually you can use this if the jungler is too far to stop you if they have a CC ability, and then you can just escape with your R. One thing to do is if they do have CC and they're pretty close, either try sidestepping it or just take it and then use your R ability when you know they have no other CC ability. Otherwise they'll cancel your channeling and then you won't be able to get out. If the enemy or allied jungler is at the top side, freeze the wave onto you as it forces the enemy to walk up to you, because they have to get CS and XP, which is easily punishable, especially if your jungler jungles on the top side. Freezing the wave correctly allows for a permanent freeze, which means their jungler has to come out and break it, making opportunities around the map elsewhere. But once the enemy jungler has dipped out, if they did break the freeze, you want to look to rebuild that freeze. Or if you know the exact location of the enemy jungler, you can just go back to punishing again. And then when it comes to team fighting with Pantheon, split pushing lanes and using your ultimate to rejoin the fights is super good. Like I always explained with the TP and the ultimate on how it works, you always want to prioritize those two things for when it comes to helping your teammates and then re-split pushing onto the lanes. Pantheon can offensively and defensively take his part here, because his empowered E ability has so much shielding and can block any bit of damage that happens to him. And it can also block other projectiles that only go through one target, so you can use that to protect your ADC and also just completely nullify the enemy's damage, along with making them just waste everything that they just threw at you. This is super essential for defending your carries and your main damage dealers. Offensively as Pantheon, you can have a specific role, whether it's holding off the front line or targeting straight to the back line, depending on what your team decides to commit for. This is all based on your team coordination. If you're solely focused on their ADC, their squishies, you can either do it on the flank or when your allies are ready to make a diversion for the rest of the team. Otherwise, if your assassin or jungler wants to engage onto the ADC, you can create a diversion for them by jumping onto their front line or while keeping off their tanks or bruisers, while allowing to make an opening for your team. So there are a lot of benefits for when it comes to team fighting with Pantheon. He can do so much and he can play many different roles within team fighting. So now that we've discussed most of the things about Pantheon, we're going to be quickly going over his combos, then we're going to go over his pros and cons, and then conclude this video. So now that we looked over combos for Pantheon, we're going to be going over his pros and cons. So the pros for Pantheon is that he has good map pressure, and he has a point-and-click stun. He does well in 1v1 situations, and he's good at snowballing in them. He bullies enemy laners early on into the game, and does for mostly into the mid and late game, depending on how much he's fed. He has very little counter matchups as well, so it's really good to pick this champion, especially into solo queue. All abilities have an empowered, which helps you in almost every situation as well with Pantheon. He can also make an enemy feel super useless with just his block ability. If they look to all in and they just mess up, or if they're midway of doing it, you can also block the entire rest of the abilities that they throw at you, which can also bait ultimates or even completely mess up the chance of them all-inning you. And he's really good for split pushing and re-engaging with team fights because of his ultimate and for the use of TP. The cons of Pantheon is he can be kited quite easily, depending on how you use your abilities and what kind of choices you use, and if you have your empowered ability, because that's going to be really useful for when it comes to not being kited. He can get quite mana hungry early on in the game, so you need to be careful, which is why Corruption Pot can be a nice early game standard option. And one thing about Pantheon is he's super weak if he's behind, so you need to make sure that you keep up in your CS and make sure you're bullying the enemy laner, denying them the CS while making sure you keep the vision behind you. He struggles with tanks quite a bit. That's why you have to build items like Black Cleaver, but it's such an expensive item, so you're gonna have to wait a little bit longer. Also with the lethality items as well, even though they're a little bit cheaper, but it's nice to go them and Black Cleaver combined. Pantheon really doesn't have a reliable escape. He only has an escape that will help him if the enemies do not have CC abilities up, and he can just run straight out and he can make it out. But it's not super reliable, but it can work. And another thing is Pantheon does rely on doing good in lane. If he's not doing good in lane, he may fall behind because he needs to make sure that he keeps up in objectives, farming, and every other thing. He needs to make sure he has pressure over the enemy. The last con of Pantheon is not a lot of sustain is given to him, which is why you compensate for that in the runes. Otherwise, if he did have some sort of sustain, you could have gone for other types of runes that would have helped him in this situation. So anyways, that was it. That was pretty much Pantheon in a nutshell. If you guys want to know other information for Pantheon, then go ahead and put it in the comment section below, and I will reply to you guys about that. So overall, Pantheon is still new in his rework stage, and there's probably more experimenting happening with this champion and still figuring out what's best for him. So far as old builds and old play styles just still fit with the modern Pantheon that we know, but we'll just have to see in future if he ever does make a drastic change or stick to the scary bruiser we all know. But I think Pantheon's gonna remain this way for now, and probably he'll receive either a few buffs or nerfs, but it's good to keep an eye on that. It's good to check on the PBE server, making sure you're checking patch notes, and this is also one thing you always have to check for when I'm making guides, because remember, any change can happen to a champion at any time. So anyways guys, thanks for watching my Pantheon guide. Go ahead and put it down in the comment section below on what other things that you want to see, and I will see you guys later.